You're listening to Word Slinger Podcast, episode 34, Audiobook Empires with David H. Lawrence the 17th. I feel compelled.
Writing is difficult, but it is worth the effort. Kevin Tomlinson can help you develop a daily writing habit that will let you write your book, improve your website, and build or grow your business. Visit kevintomlinson.com and start writing now.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. I'm so happy to be here today. And my voice is going to be a little raspy and kind of sexy, actually, I think. Isn't it? Don't you love that low register, the sort of raspy radio voice? I know I do. Aside from my voice and how sexy that is, today I'm actually talking to somebody you may know, or at least know of. If you watched NBC's Heroes, especially I believe it was like the second season, there was a character who was the puppet master who, he controlled Claire, the cheerleader. That was one of his things, and he basically could dominate your will. And that part was played by David H. Lawrence the 17th. Now, there's a whole backstory behind why we gotta refer to him as the 17th, but we didn't really go into it in the show. But if you go connect with him online, you can probably find out a whole lot about it. So we won't go into it here. But what I did talk to him about was audiobooks, because one of the things that David does is, he's a narrator, among other things. I mean, he uses his considerable acting skills to narrate books and make them, very cool. He's done a lot of work for the guys at Self-Publishing Podcast, Johnny and Sean in particular. And, that he does great work. I've heard some of his stuff. I'm impressed by it. But he also teaches people how to do this work. And he has an app for people who do this. It's like an audition app, and you can find that on his website at, we're going to give it to you, and I'm going to screw it up at least once during this show. I know for a fact because it's in the recorded interview. But if you go to vo2gogo.com, that's VO, the number 2, gogo.com, you can learn more about, David's work with the rehearsal app and the, teaching how to be a voice actor and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, interested in being a voice actor, or even interested in being a audiobook reader, narrator, go check that out. So I'm not going to keep you from the interview today. I want you to jump right in. I'm trying to kind of keep these things trim these days. And then I'll put all the non-interview stuff at the end, but definitely tune in because I've got another question from a listener, and I've also got an announcement for a class from a friend of mine that if you're interested in being an author and being successful at it, not being a starving artist, but being a thriving artist, you're going to want to hear this offer. So tune in after the interview. I hope you enjoy it. I feel compelled. I already made that joke. All right. Take care, everybody. Enjoy this interview with David H. Lawrence, the 17th. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again. And today I'm here with David H. Lawrence, the 17th, and there's a whole backstory behind that. I don't know if we really want to go into that. They can get that story just about anywhere. Yeah, you tell that all the time.
Do not. No, you don't need that.
I'll write something about it at some point. People can pick it up. So how are you doing, David?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking, Kevin. And you?
I'm doing fantastic. And I'm really glad you agreed to do this. And I know it was kind of impromptu.
Well, I'm glad you agreed to do it as quickly as you agreed to do it. Like you said, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yes, can we do it now?
I like action like that, though.
Yeah, you have a bias for action.
It makes me feel important.
Okay.
See how I enunciated there? I don't normally enunciate. I'm enunciating to you because, among other things, you are an actor, and I have seen you in many things. Of course, the thing everybody recognizes you from, of course, is Mole Man from Hulk, Agent of Smash.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think most people are like, wait, that was you?
I didn't realize it was you.
Because, Nobody. Yeah, no, I mention that to people, and they're like, "Huh,
But you
wow,
were.
that's because it's all it is your voice, and you don't, nobody identifies. Like I'm thinking that half the time the people that do all the Disney stuff, they get celebrities. Like people come to me. I teach voiceover. When people come to me to learn, sometimes they'll say things as to why they want to learn, and many times those fall into one of two or three categories. I do goofy voices, and my kids love it, so I want to do animation, which is like saying, I've driven in Los Angeles my whole life, so now I want to go to Monaco and be a Grand Prix driver.
Right.
And then the other one is, people tell me I have a great voice on the phone, and I'm like, okay, that's great. None of those things, are bad, but none of them really matter in terms of paying attention to.
You could be the next Siri.
Who?
You could be the next Siri.
Oh, well.
Or information when I call information.
Maybe. But then the third thing that people say to me is, I really want to do animation, and this is mostly women. Some guys say this, and I get kind of crazy, but I want to be the next Disney princess.
Okay.
And, I don't want to burst their bubble, but you're not going to be the next Disney princess because you're not a celebrity yet.
Right.
So until you become a superstar celebrity, you're not going to even be considered for being a Disney princess. Not like the old days when they would just find good talent out here in LA or in New York or wherever and, go, oh, yeah, she's got a great singing voice. Let's make her Pocahontas. Now it's like if you want to be in Frozen, you've got to have 50 billion Twitter followers. You got to be with an A-list agency.
Yeah.
I mean, Kristen Bell was in Disney, and the girl that played the younger sister, there was just an article that came out today that, she was an unknown when they found her, but she's not a Disney princess.
Right.
She got paid $700 for the day.
Wow.
And so, the article was actually about Josh Gad, who played the snowman, and how he didn't get paid a whole lot. He got a couple thousand because he did 10 sessions, and that's, you get like $450 a session. But he got a lot of residuals, and they're paying him very handsomely for the sequel,
right.
Which is the way it should be. Even if you're a star, it's like, get your chops done the first episode, and then if that takes off, great. Then hold them hostage for whatever. Like, when Seinfeld said, okay, for this season from now on, each one of us makes $1 million an episode,
right.
Or we're not doing it, right? Or Friends did that, right? I think
right.
Friends did that as well.
Yeah. Seinfeld actually turned money down for a last season.
Yeah.
Like they
didn't need it at that point. I mean, come on. No. But the idea that people know me as, Mole Man on the Agents of Smash is completely and irretrievably a lie, a bald-faced lie. No one knows. In fact, when I say that, they're disbelieving. Like, okay, you can go look it up on IMDb. I can't lie about that, right? I wouldn't want to. But, so...
I admit I peeked at IMDb, and that's how I knew. But I recognize you from all kinds of things. I mean, I think most people will. And, everyone always mentions Heroes because that seems to be the... I don't know. Yeah. Is that what people bring up the most for you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I went and picked up some fast food when I was in Phoenix the other day. And, I went through this big, long, is this gluten-free? Because my girlfriend has Hashimoto's and she can't have gluten, dairy, or egg. And I'm making sure all this is right. And when I was done talking to the person at the counter... She said, we couldn't have possibly made a mistake on this because you were puppeting us the whole time, right?
Right.
So, she waited until the end, which was great. And it was awesome. And I love when people, when they go, oh, I loved Heroes. And then I'll go, okay, so does that mean you watched it and you liked my character, or you just loved Heroes and you wish somebody else was, involved? And they're like, no, we liked you. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Because some people can do that as sort of a left-handed compliment. I know you were in the series, but we didn't like your character. So I loved watching Heroes, not I loved watching you on Heroes, or I loved your work on Heroes, or whatever. And there was this one lady who couldn't differentiate between me and the character that I played. And I was at the Dragon Con in Atlanta, which is, I don't know if you know what that is. It's a huge gaming convention. Some of your listeners may not know.
Yeah, may not.
Because they actually have culture in their lives. But I was there. Yeah, I was there signing autographs, and this guy comes up to the table and he goes, could you sign a picture for Make It Out to Betsy? And I'm like, who's Betsy? Oh, that's my wife. Well, where's she? She's over there. She won't come over here. She says you're too creepy. And I'm like, I'm not creepy. I waved at her, and she turned away from me in utter shock and horror. I said, does she not know that I'm an actor? It was a part. He goes, look, don't even. It's a
Just leave
losing
it.
battle, pal. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I made it out to her, and I think I signed it "Stay Villainous" or something like that. So anyway,
Yeah.
did you ask me a question? Was that an
Not
answer
yet.
to any question you
No,
asked me?
it answered lots of questions that I'm sure I would have asked, but no, I hadn't yet. No, I was actually
Great.
just introducing you as the actor slash voice artist. Now you teach people at what is it? VO2GoGo.com. I'm going to mess that up.
the numeral 2 gogo.com.
Yeah.
And that's where I've sort of housed my complete curriculum for teaching voice work. A major part of which, 2 months worth of a 12-month curriculum, is about audiobooks, because audiobooks in the last few years has become really low-hanging fruit
Right.
for voiceover talent and for your listeners, authors who want to voice their own books.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But if you don't, well, I can give you some
Man,
tips.
I got to give you props because I will admit I always thought that would be somewhat simple since I have, I've got the space, I've got the equipment, and I've done some voice work, so I
Well, it
figured,
is somewhat simple.
well, simple maybe, but not easy. The process can be somewhat simple.
What I try to do is I try to reduce the whole thing to a series of math problems. I mean, you're never going to be able to do that with the performance side of things, but I teach voiceover from 3 perspectives: art, commerce, and science.
Yeah.
And the art is, in this case, audiobook voiceover as opposed to commercial or narration or animation or any of the other millions of different ways you can use your voice to make money. And then the commerce side and the technology side are the 2 that I can reduce to at least best practices, if not math problems, so that once you figure them out, you just, lather, rinse, repeat. So, in case, and part of it is being willing to unlearn things that you've either assumed will work or aren't working and you don't know what else to do, right? So, a lot of people are like, well, all I need is a little snowball mic and, I just need to record it in I gotta get Pro Tools and record it, I think that people jump to all kinds of conclusions and they ask people who don't really know the answers what to do, and then these people that don't really know the answers tell them the wrong things. I teach a master class in ACX. It's called the ACX Masterclass, oddly enough. And, breaking the bad habits of people who think they got great advice on how to do this is half the battle for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway.
What's some bad advice that you've had to break people of?
Whoa, my gosh, where do I start? The kind of microphone to get. Either too expensive or too cheap or inappropriate. The amount of equipment to get. People often think, oh, I won't do fiction books because they require character voices, and I don't do character voices. And it's like, I do character voices, but I rarely do them when I'm doing audiobook work, because for me, and for any good audiobook narrator, subtlety is the key. And doing a character voice like you would for animation or for a video game is overkill for an audiobook and can be distracting to the listener. I just got finished doing an audiobook for Random House called A Deadly Secret. And they were rushing it. It was called a crash project because they were rushing it to the marketplace because it's the book that was written in the mid-2000s by Matt Birkbeck on Robert Durst.
Okay.
And so, have you seen any of the stuff on Robert Durst?
I've seen a little bit going on. Yeah, I
so there was
default.
Yeah, so there was a documentary on HBO that blew this wide open called The Jinx.
Yeah.
And we watched that, like, we couldn't wait to consume that. We binge watched that one weekend leading up to the final episode, and I happened to do a credible Robert Durst.
All right.
And so, I was doing it for the book, and my producer's like, what is that voice you're doing? And she hadn't seen any of the stuff. And I said, I'm going to go to the bathroom. You go ahead and watch a bit of The Jinx. And when I came back, she's like, oh, okay. So in a book like that, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But in a book where, the character has a slight Irish accent, and because you do the Lucky Charms leprechaun, that's how it comes out. You don't want to do that, because what it does is it just arrests the attention of the listener
Right.
away from the story and to your even just doing the accent, whether or not it's brilliant or not. Oh, he's doing an Irish accent, and then it's like, what? And so they have to hit the go back 30 seconds button on their player. So
yeah, you're getting in the way at that point.
yeah, so there's lots of things that people are taught. And my point of all that was, I don't usually do those hardcore characters. I just go slightly in one direction or the other in terms of pitch, in terms of accent, in terms of volume, in terms of speed when characters are talking.
Yeah.
So my neutral narrator voice is extraordinarily slow to the average listener if they were listening to any other type of voiceover, because you want to give your listener a fighting chance at hearing, understanding, and then integrating the information as the story goes on. That's why the best narrators in the world are narrators who talk like this. And when they present the work, they give you this wonderful opportunity to understand it.
Yeah.
I never sound like that as far as I know, but just in terms of the speed, that's the case.
Yeah.
And so for women, I'll raise my pitch a little. For kids, I'll raise my pitch a little and pick up my speed a little. And for guys, it depends whether the guy's a jerk or a hero or whatever. I'll add some vocal fry every so often if they're millennials or they're 20 somethings.
Yeah.
But you just don't want to be in a situation where you're out in front of the story. You want the story to be the centerpiece and the star of the production. And I think a lot of audiobook narrators mistake having the ability to read words well on the page and as an announcer for being someone who can relate a story that is easy and smooth and capable of being understood by the listener. Yeah. That's just one of a million different things that people assume but aren't necessarily true.
So you brought up ACX earlier, and that was originally why we started chatting, because I had sent you a question, kind of just following up. You had an interview on Self-Publishing Podcast, and I was following up asking you about how to attract a good narrator, with the listing, because what I've found, I was thinking of it as more or less the same way I try to attract a reader. Like, how do I get somebody interested enough to actually want to work with me if, for example, I'm only able to do the royalty split and I'm not able to throw any additional cash their way? Like, is there a best practices I might want to follow to write that?
Just to make sure you understand, cash is king.
I understand.
And for union performers in particular, an author-funded stipend that is at least $225 an hour per finished hour, in addition to the royalty share, is going to get you the very best people in the world. And the reason it's $225 is then you additionally have to provide I think it's a 12% health and retirement. But this is what people do for a living. And just like if somebody were to come up to you and say, "Oh, you're a writer, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, could you write me like 50,000 word article / ebook for free?"
Yeah.
And if we sell any, we'll slide some stuff your way. And
that does happen, by the way.
I bet. And I bet you have answers for that are similar to what narrators might have.
Yeah.
Now, there are narrators who are going to be spectacular, and many of them are my students. I am really proud of the people that have come through our training and what they've gone on to do. In the last year, we've trained about 150 people or so. Mm-hmm. And some of them take the training and don't do squat with it because they're frightened or because life happens or whatever. And then there are people like J. Rodney Turner, who took our class back in March of last year, or February, March of last year, and between now and then has 30 books in the ACX marketplace.
Wow.
In the Audible marketplace. And he's a former air traffic controller, so he's used to talking all day long.
Yeah.
But he kicks out a book every week or so. And he's awesome. And he is, determined to create for himself a portfolio of books that continually kick off royalties as the books sell. Yeah. But on an individual basis, it's just like what you guys do. You want to write as many books as you can, head for the James Patterson end of things or the Tom Clancy end of things, where you have series and you have, ghostwriters working for you and people that are you're inspired by and with you and all that. That's a very rarefied air.
Yeah.
and you have every opportunity to do that, but in terms of your question, there are probably, I would say, three main areas that authors often kind of maybe don't have the best words for when they set up a project. And I'm assuming that's what you were asking about in terms of the.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm thinking in terms of the author who is, they're not already successful. They're not really making much. They don't have a lot of cash to throw at this. So the idea of the royalty split appeals to that author because there's no overhead. So, but attracting someone who's of any quality, to do the work, I understand where you're coming from on that. I mean, I deal with that all the time as an author and a copywriter, so I know exactly what you're saying. I just was wondering if there was a way that you could tailor that listing so that it appealed enough to somebody that they might give you a shot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So if your book isn't like in the top 10% or so of sales, and a lot of books aren't.
Yeah.
And you can't offer them cash in addition to a royalty share, then at the very least make sure that you let them know that you're going to be a dream client to work with.
Yeah.
So let them know that you are just so excited about their interpretation of your work. Here's what not to say. I would like to make sure that when you pronounce the word "the," it's pronounced "the" as opposed to "the." So, because that happens sometimes.
Right,
I mean, I'm doing a book right now with an author who happens to be a friend of mine. So this is a doubly dicey situation. And she came very close to becoming a micromanager when it came to the way things were said. And I'm like, I really do know what I'm doing here. And the way I'm phrasing this is appropriate for that sentence. And it was like the first chapter came back with like almost 150 pickups.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we can't do this. If you hear something in your head that you didn't hear from me and you're just hiring me to do this as your friend, maybe we should just stop this right now so you can go find somebody who you think is better at what you want. Because I'm going to do it my way. And it's not my way or the highway. If I make a mistake, I want to know about it. I want to fix that if I mispronounce something, etc.
Right.
But if you let them know that you trust them and that you want them to interpret things the way an actor is trusted by a writer, there's no way that a writer or a director is going to come up to an actor and say, okay, I need you to give me sort of a downward slope on that final few words. I want you to come to a conclusion rather than asking a question. Things like that drive actors crazy. It's called line reads, and sometimes people do that. Now in voiceover, I'm all for line reads. In fact, I hope that my directors give me line reads, especially with commercials, because you know what? If I do what they want me to do, I get out of there and I make the same amount of money.
Right.
So it's okay with me. But when you're doing a long form work like a book, you want to sort of leave it up to the actor to bring what they bring to the table and let them be themselves. It's why you were attracted to them to begin with.
Yeah.
And so just let them know that you're all about their interpretation and not what you had in your head, because everybody's going to have something a little bit different in their head when they read a book, when they read a book and add the characters' voices and the neutral narrator voice. It just flies right by, but it's still a personal thing. So another thing to do is not to micromanage them in terms of other things. Let the narrator be the producer and produce what they can as quickly as they possibly can. And when they do produce quickly, you be quick about your responses for feedback. Because what I train my voice actors to do is to upload a page or upload a chapter or a body on ACX and then go start working on the next one. And hopefully within a day or so, your author will get back to you with any changes that need to be made to that one that you uploaded, but you're still working on the next ones. And you want to kind of have this, hop, skip, and a jump back and forth on the chapters that you've already done, and then you're uploading the new chapters that you've created.
Yeah.
And I warn my actors and my narrators that you guys just don't think that way sometimes. I mean, just consider things from the author's point of view. Some of you have been working on books for not hours, minutes, seconds, days, weeks. You know, like we think about our work is like, oh, I've got a 30-second spot that I have to get done in the next hour. I have to audition for it in the next 30 minutes or it's going to close. I mean, we're very near field, near-term thinkers, and usually it's because what we're being asked to produce needs to be ready to go and be published to the public, very soon. So sometimes commercials are created for this weekend. You know, like I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on today as we're recording this on Friday. That will be airing next week. Yeah. And so we tend to think that way. Whereas authors, oh my God, authors write books, and unless you're, like part of the Write Fast movement, sometimes you've worked on books for many months, years, decades. And so you think in very elongated timelines in terms of, and some of you that have worked in the traditional publishing space know that even then you have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for the book to be set and proofed and printed and shipped and distributed and all that stuff. And so that adds weeks and weeks and weeks of things. So you tend to think in longer terms than we do.
Yeah.
Remember, usually you're giving your narrator 60 days to do the work. So don't screw them over by waiting to respond to them when they ask you for feedback on a chapter. Get to it as soon as you get that notice from ACX.
Yeah.
Like this is one of those things where I would say a drop what you're doing thing, because if you want the narrator to get the stuff done and also have time to make corrections, you don't want to hamstring them by you just kind of like, I'll get to it this weekend or maybe next month, which is what a lot of authors do. Some authors will not even take the time to approve stuff in time to get stipend payments and things like that for the narrators. If you can, try to get ACX to type your book as a stipend project. That will attract a different class of narrators to you. And again, if you can, be willing to provide some sort of a rights holder funded stipend along with it, because what you're doing then is you're telling a narrator, look, I really get this. You've got a different stream of income from your print versions and your ebook versions. I only have a stream of income from this, and traditionally audiobooks sell about, maybe 95-5 in terms of print and ebook versus audiobooks. That's been increasing, and some of the books that I've done have sold as much as 30% of the totals.
Yeah.
But audiobooks is very much a booming business, but it's not a business that sells even close to what the print or ebook version of your books will run. So it's not going to be a big, huge payday at the end of the day. And if you're giving your book away for free, don't ask the narrator to narrate for free. That happened to me twice. It's like, this is a premium for us, so we're just giving it away. So that means the royalty share by default is going to be 0.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need to make this a per finished hour book. And they're like, oh, well, we can't do that. This is a book we're giving away for free. And I'm like, okay, so let's back up. You're giving this book away for free, hopefully because it's going to generate income for you in other areas.
Right.
And I'm sure that if you're giving away a printed version of the book, the printer didn't say, oh yeah, let me just print that for you for free.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, does that all make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I thought, and that's why it's interesting to me, because I understand why the royalty split is there. It's supposed to be the same sort of encouragement as, I don't know, there are other services like this where you kind of enter into a creative partnership, and I like thinking of it like that. But I also see it as it can be a bad investment. Because, the book may or may not sell, first of all, may never sell. And, it's fine if I invest a lot of time into it because it was my baby, but asking someone else to jump in if they don't have the same passion for it, I guess you kind of got to work on getting them to believe, right?
Well, you want to assume that whoever you're going to hire is going to either begin with or grow into a passionate advocate on behalf of your work. So that isn't even something you should worry about.
Yeah.
But the idea that you then turn around and go, well, I can't really pay you anything for it. The narrators are being sent to the audition tab of your project.
Yeah.
And the one thing you can't fudge is your Amazon sales ranking.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you can game it for a while, but if it comes back and it's 8,750,000, that means you've sold one to you and one to your mom.
Yeah.
So, we train people to look at, the number of books on Amazon, and then what percentile is the number. And if it's less than 6 digits, we're all there.
Right.
We want to be involved with your book. And we also, so what we're doing is we are investigating your level of investment and engagement and happiness with your already existing fan base.
Right.
And you should be doing the same thing with your narrators. If your narrators are like me and they have a modicum of work under their belts and are somewhat well known, find out how many Twitter followers they have. Because when I only have 9,000 Twitter followers, but they're pretty hardcore, and I like them and I serve them. And when I say, hey, I've got this book and would you like a code, I get 50 requests within 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I'm giving away something for free, but I also know that they're going to go off, and if they don't have an account at Audible, they'll create one, and we'll get a bounty from that. If they haven't done it before and they're doing it for the first time, they'll leave a nice review. And by the way, that's something you should always do with your codes, is not only give the codes to your friends and family, but say to them, once you get the book, please leave a review and a rating, so that and make it a review that shows that you listened to the book or you read the book if it's a Kindle request.
Yeah, so does that count as a verified purchase if they got it with the code?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I was hoping. Not that I have any out there to give codes for right now, because I can't attract anybody to actually be the narrator. So I'm looking at this stipend idea now, which before wasn't really in reach for me, and now doing a little better at it. So I think I could probably pull it off. But I don't have the numbers on ranking, so I don't think I'm attracting people for that reason.
Well, when you offer, that's the good news about offering a side stipend or a rights holder funded stipend, is it doesn't matter what your sales ranking is, because you can always say, look, I'm going to make sure that you're taken care of with this money up front, and then whatever we can do on the back end to promote it, and talk to your narrators about using social networking and maybe doing an event with you. I would, especially because you have this podcast, I would say that it should be standard order procedure that anybody who you've brought on as a narrator, you want to have them as a guest on your podcast and want to play some snippets of it, like we did last week on self-publishing.
Exactly, yeah.
And so for those of you that see that, I'm so sorry that I was at Random House doing the Robert Durst book that day, and my iPhone was getting crappy reception, and Google Hangouts isn't the greatest idea to begin with, but
I didn't get to. I wasn't able to actually watch it, but I did get to hear the whole thing. You looked great the whole time.
Thank you. I look great because you were listening. That's fantastic. Yeah, he's got a face for radio. So
okay, this idea of collaboration and on the promotion side is something I think is very cool. I mean, how often do you? I assume you're kind of training your folks with that idea in mind, right?
What?
The idea of promoting together this work that you've produced. I mean, even if they're paying a stipend, right?
Yeah, let me tell you exactly how I'm training my people. I'm training my people to be what I am to them, I hope, and that is the defenders of the success of their careers.
Yeah.
And I want them to be the defenders of the success of any project that they get involved with. So I give them email templates as to how to talk to you about things, how to talk to rights holders about things. I show them how to get the work done quickly and efficiently and with minimal edit errors as I've been able to stamp out of the process. I mean, I've tried to take each part of this process and say, okay, how can I make this frictionless? How can I make this smoother without in any way, shape, or form impinging on the quality of the work?
Yeah.
Never will I say, read faster, because let's face it, you're being paid by the hour. So,
Right.
slow your roll. But the idea that I want them to hold your hand through this process, I want them to let you know as an author that they've got your back on this and that they'll take care of you, and that they'll make sure things are set up properly. I even have them log in as a rights holder to see what it's like to what things look like from your perspective.
Yeah.
So I want them to understand as much about the process as they can, so that when you come to them, they're like, look, I got this. I promise you I'll take care of you. And that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Be the guide. I mean, it helps. It helps because I'll tell you honestly, I had a narrator for one of my books, and it ended up kind of falling to pieces because he had one problem after another. You know, it was a lot of excuses really, but he was great. But I didn't know anything at the time, so it would have been nice to have somebody who kind of walked along with me, showed me behind the curtain a little, I guess. So what if you're encountering someone who's not in your program and doesn't know these things? What are some ways you can kind of get them on board with that idea?
Well, I don't actually have a class for rights holders.
Okay.
But
Why
you know,
not, man? You should have a class. For
well,
that.
I mean, we've thought about it. We've thought
Yeah.
about bringing rights holders in and training them the way we train. But there are people out there that do that, and there are people out there that do train rights holders. And there's a concept of stick to your knitting and work to your strengths. My girlfriend is actually a strengths finder coach, and one of the things that she says all the time is, sometimes people get diffused in their approach and they start to do things that work against their strengths and are outside their bailiwicks. And I found that if I concentrate on the performance side of things, it's just perfect for me. And I mean, maybe Confessions of an Audiobook Narrator for the rights holders might be a nice one-day seminar. I don't know, maybe
a webinar. Or something.
So a webinar. Maybe we'll do that. But the idea that it's a new process to almost everybody. ACX has only been around for a few years. I think they started in June of 2011. And so, people are still getting used to it. And they've changed the rules a little bit. They changed the royalty share split last year. And, they keep sort of monkeying around with the big data of what they're doing. But look at what's happened, though. The marketplace has just mushroomed. And audiobooks are, the bomb. I mean, if you look at this growth of audiobook stuff, there were about 700 or 800 audiobooks produced by the big manufacturers, big publishers, in the early 2000s on average each year. And now it's like 30,000.
Wow.
And much of that is due to ACX.
Yeah.
So, if people, now that adds to the noise floor because there are some books out there that should not even be published, let alone turned into audiobooks. I mean, I've recorded a couple of them, and the author's like, it's my first effort, please don't be too hard on me. It's like, okay, look, everybody has that. And I love when there are wealthy dilettantes. I've written a book and I have an unlimited checkbook. I'm right there. I charge $1,000 an hour. So, and I do. That's my rate on ACX. So, but the point is, I don't love that work. I just do it so I can pay my mortgage. But when you have somebody who's got really good work and they're willing to work with you and they're willing to give you at least a union level stipend when ACX won't, and that is going to help them, have safety in terms of their health and their retirement, that's like a dream client. If you want to be a dream client, that's what you want to do. And, I can coach you individually on how to do that sort of thing, but I think those are the basic tenets of what to do to be a great rights holder on ACX. Perfect. At least from a narrator's perspective.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that all of that makes perfect sense. I mean, I think the thing that people want to hear is that, if you write this phrase in the description, you'll get a great narrator who would normally charge $1,000 an hour, but is willing to do your book for free, even though you just launched it yesterday. People want to hear something like that, and it's just not, it's not the reality. So, So let me ask, because you said something that struck a chord with me, like the dilettantes who have unlimited funds and can throw money your way. I mean, are there books that you would just turn down because you fear they might, hurt your reputation as a narrator or something?
I don't have any books that are going to hurt my reputation. It's kind of in the crapper anyway. But no, I mean, I don't care about my reputation. There's nothing about me doing performance work that I can do to damage what I do. I mean, everybody does bad movies. Everybody does. But I would prefer to work on a book that at the very least has good grammar and not just punctuated with typography issue or typos. what's typo short for? Typographic error.
Typographic
Okay.
error, yeah.
Yeah, I would prefer that be the case, especially when somebody says, "Oh, no, I had it proofed. It's okay." And I had it proofed actually in English translates into I proofed it myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, look, when you look at the history of performance, I'm listening to a book right now called I Was about Steve
I
Wozniak.
love that book. Yeah.
Yeah. So remember the part when he's talking about creating the US Festival?
Mm-hmm.
He's creating the US Festival because he wants to go.
Yeah, exactly.
He wants to go see country bands. And of
Yeah.
course, Bill Graham steps in and says, no country bands. They got to be pop and rock and hip hop, which is horrible for him. He wanted to create something that he wanted to do. I mean,
Right.
I'll give you a personal example. I have an app that I sell to actors that helps them learn their lines.
Okay.
And it's an industry standard after 4 years. I brought it out in 2010, and after 4 or 5 years, it's an industry standard. So the dirty little secret of all that is, if nobody ever bought that app from me and I was able to use it, it would be fine because it would make me a better actor,
Right.
because I'd be off book for my auditions and for my work, and that just is awesome.
Yeah.
So, sometimes people have situations where they have more money than they have ability, and they're not afraid to throw that money around. And the thing is, good for them, because maybe they actually do have ability. I mean, I imagine your first effort on a book wasn't nearly as good as your current efforts are. And I think that would apply to everybody. If you're not getting better, it's time to go find something else to do.
Yeah, I can prove
So-
that.
What's that?
I can prove that statement.
There you go. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm willing to work. If somebody's willing to pay me, I'm willing to work as a performer for them. I'm not willing to do things that are illegal. There are some, some books that I've been offered in the nonfiction space, especially in the self-help and marketing space. I just won't try to sell people an impossible dream. I won't. I'm very much. I'm an Ayn Randian objectivist. So I kind of eschew all forms of woo-woo.
Yeah.
If you just tap right here on your wrist, you'll become wealthy. Like, what? No, I'm not going to do that.
I'm over here
So-
tapping like various areas of my wrist right now. Just trying.
Are you?
I'm just trying to
Just
find
trying to
it by
figure it out?
accident. Yeah.
Keep tapping until your wallet gets thicker, and then you'll know you hit the right place.
I'm a winner.
Yes.
So, do you have a favorite book that you've narrated?
Well, this Robert Durst book was pretty good. I mean,
Okay.
I think I'm also very enthusiastic about the concept. I also am in the middle of doing a book for Jay Thorne, which is going to, I think, be fantastic. And I did Axis of Aaron for
Yep.
those that listen to the self-publishing podcast. I loved that book. I couldn't help but do that book. And I also did a book if you want my absolute favorite book, it was a book that was never on sale. It was a book that was a labor of love that I didn't charge for. 2 years ago, I'd been dating my current girlfriend for a year or so. And for Valentine's Day, I read The Notebook
Oh, okay.
and gave it to her as a gift. And there were times during that book that I had to stop narrating because I was crying. And, those are the things that really get you. I did a book late last year called League of Denial about the NFL's concussion crisis. And it made me, really cynical and jaded about big sports and the NFL in particular, just because of their, use them and throw them away attitude in terms of the players. And I also became really expert in this is the other thing about narrating audiobooks, especially nonfiction audiobooks, is you become really expert in whatever that area is.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping that I can do a nonfiction book on, brain surgery so that I can then become a brain surgeon.
That's always the
I
example.
think that would be great to have that going for me.
Yeah, there you go. You can always add that to your resume. You didn't play a brain surgeon on TV, but you were one in real life.
Right. I played a lot of things on TV, but yeah.
So when it comes to I have this whole, I like the whole sharpening your saw kind of thing and looking for mentors. I mean, do you have mentors in this business that you still turn to this day?
no one has actually mentored me in this business. I took a single class from Pat Fraley back in the 90s, and what he taught is not relevant today. I mean, about the business, right? He was teaching, go to these publishers and ask them to buy the rights. And, it's just a crazy, in those days, I guess worked okay. I never was able to take advantage of it, but I will tell you that the people that are my mentors are mentors in terms of storytelling.
Yeah.
And Pat certainly is that. I mean, he is just a brilliant guy when it comes to the storytelling side of things. And then, of course, Howard Fine, who is my acting teacher, and Patrick Tucker, who wrote the book Secrets of Screen Acting. Because for me, audiobook narration is nothing but a unique form of performance. I think all of the things that we engage in are unique forms of performance, and they're no different from one another, other than the technical differences and the collector devices. So if you're on camera, if you're on mic, if you're on stage, if you're doing standardized patient work and you're in a bed at UCLA, they hire actors to train doctors on how to have good bedside manner, and that's actually something that there's a union contract for. So whatever it is, though, it's about storytelling. It is absolutely not about reading words well on the page. And so the people that have influenced me in that space are people who have really contributed to my ability to be a good actor. And I am a really, really good actor.
I agree. I feel compelled to say that, actually, for some reason. So do you see that as the storytelling? I mean, do you see yourself as a collaborator in the storytelling when it comes to the narration of a book?
Say that again?
I may have flubbed it, but what I was trying to say was, do you see yourself as a collaborator in the actual storytelling when you're narrating an author's book?
A collaborator with the author?
Yeah, are you collaborating and actually crafting the story at that point?
In a sense, and I want to be careful about how I say this because I don't want to sound flippant.
No, okay.
But I'm not all that interested in what anybody has to say about how I interpret a story.
Yeah.
And that includes the author, and that includes the publisher, and then I know that's the people like, "Fuck you! What do you?" I mean, are we able to say that?
Why not? I got
this is not safe. I guess we just did. You can bleep it if you want to. Here's the thing: I just want to. I want to make sure that I am true to myself, because if I try to make any constituency other than myself happy, there's a good chance that I'm not going to make other parts of my total constituency happy.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, there are people who used to call me all the time when I was on the radio and say, you know what you should do? You should do this. And it's like, okay, that would make you happy, but that would really tick off somebody else who wanted something different about my radio show. And it certainly wouldn't make me happy, sir. So I'm not listening to anybody. Hopefully I become attractive to someone as a narrator because of my ability to interpret. Yeah. And what I don't want or need is somebody to tell me how to interpret stuff. I mean, I'm fine if hopefully we don't get that far where you're like, no, I don't like what you did, because you certainly had the opportunity to listen to my demos. You had the opportunity to listen to my other books. And on the rare occasion that I will audition for someone, because, of course, I'm very famous and very popular and very good at what I do. On those occasions that I audition for things, you've heard my audition. Yeah. And then you've heard the first 15 minutes if we actually start doing the project together. So at some point along that path, if you didn't like what you were hearing, go find somebody else. I get that.
Yeah.
But to then say, okay, now I've got you, now let me mold you into what I want, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in making sure that you are pleasantly and completely and utterly surprised and delighted with how things came out.
I don't see how they could be any other way, David. Okay, we're at my 45-minute window, but I have one question I really wanted to ask you before it was all done.
Sure.
And that was about the marketing of your business. Like, what do you do to market Video to Go?
So it's VO to go. So
I don't know why I said Video to Go.
Voiceover is what the VO stands for, right?
Yeah. Okay, for everyone listening, don't pay attention to what I said. Pay attention to what I meant.
Okay, so I rely on many streams of marketing, whether it's internet marketing, text, blogging. I'm thinking of bringing a podcast back.
Very good.
I market via word of mouth. I market via offline ads. I market via QR codes. I've got a huge wall ad up at one of the big auditioning spaces here in town for both my voiceover services and my app, and I track how those things come into me. And then I have, buck slips that I use, and I have Moo cards, and I'm about to do Facebook ads. And, I just went to Icon this week, so I'm instituting Infusionsoft into my, you may have asked a very, very, very wrong question at this point if you wanted to wrap this podcast up. But I'm a marketing.
It's up to you, man. You go as far as you want to go.
I'm a marketing dude, I love marketing. To me, it's part and parcel of what I teach. I run my business the way I teach people how to run their businesses, and that's to run from an art, a commerce, and a science perspective. If you don't do that, if you don't understand the tools that you need to run and do your business for the science part of things, if you don't understand the business aspects of finding customers, finding out what they need and filling those needs, and then further making sure that they're happy, making sure that they pay you on time, all the things that go into the business, both of which, the business and the science, the commerce and the science, are things that most artists, and because we're talking to writers, you guys are included, they sometimes push back on and go, I'm not interested at all in being a business person or a science technical How many writers have you talked to who ran kicking and screaming as they were brought towards Word or brought towards whatever they write with? I prefer a typewriter. Thank you very much. Okay, great.
I've known a few, maybe.
Yeah. So, but the science of things and the art of things. How about people that don't understand the Kindle ecosystem?
Yeah.
Or just indie publishing in general.
Yeah.
It requires a pretty deep knowledge of what's available to you in terms of software as services and apps and sites and just your computer and how to use it. So. I love that aspect of things, and it just so happens that I do well on the performance side. So that's, I think, why my business is firing on all cylinders, is because I pay attention to all three of those vectors, and certainly marketing is a big part of the business vector.
Okay, someday I'm going to have you back on the show just to talk about marketing then.
Great.
You are clearly very knowledgeable and excited, and so that has to be nurtured. So,
yep.
But I've taken up enough of your time, and I really appreciate it. I mean, I know this was thrown together. You were very kind to do this today. Thanks so much. And I'm gonna keep looking out for you, man. You're everywhere anyway. I'm checking out your IMDb right now, and you're always in stuff. You're always in stuff I watch.
I'm excited.
So that was David H. Lawrence. Thank you so much again for being on the show, man. And I will pass everybody to votogogo.com, not the other one that I said. And
okay.
Maybe I'll edit that out. So.
All right.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yep.
And
talk to you soon.
Everyone else, we'll see you next week. All right. That was David H. Lawrence, the 17th. The other 16 David H. Lawrences just weren't worth interviewing. Sorry, guys. Maybe next time. Keep working on it. So, we learned a lot there. Audiobooks, so I love listening to audiobooks. I listen to a ton of audiobooks. The nature of what I do these days makes it difficult for me to... I read. I read a ton. I probably read I used to read about 10 books a week. Now I read probably more like 3 to 5. Actually sitting and putting eyes to to a page. That's the reading I'm referring to. But I continue to listen to tons of audiobooks because it's a way for me to get the information. I love listening to the occasional fiction book, but I use audiobooks to digest more the business stuff that I need to know, the marketing stuff, the more nonfiction stuff. And maybe that's because now I've heard rumors that the whole auditory, visual, kinesthetic learning modality thing might not be genuine. But I've found that I am much better at digesting this nonfiction information through an audiobook than I am reading it. And, that's just the way my brain is wired. Now, there are all kinds of tricks. In college, I used to use a trick to work around that when I needed to read a textbook and study, which I rarely did, I'll be honest. I didn't I wasn't much for studying, but when I did have to study something, when I didn't already know enough about it or couldn't get enough about it out of lecture or whatever, and I had to actually turn to a textbook, I would read the textbook out loud so that I'd have that to listen back to, and it reinforced what I was reading. So there's a trick, free tip for you. Now, if I had David H. Lawrence the 17th's course under my belt and his help, I could probably have done that professionally. So now I wanted to get to I have a couple of things going, and one of those is I have a friend. Her name is Honore, and she has a course that you might be interested in if you are an author or you want to be an author, and you want to make money at it. You want to actually, and this is different than what I normally talk about. This is not about marketing your work. This is about getting in the right headspace. This is about getting yourself prepared for a life of prosperity as this. And she has a 100% guarantee, which not a lot of people are going to offer that. But what she's going to do is talk to you for several weeks, really, about prosperity, about how to become a prosperous writer. Prosperity for Writers. So it's a 30-day transformation program called Prosperity for Writers. Sorry, I got my door slightly open in the studio because it was a little warm in here, so sorry about that. You're hearing echo every now and then. But and this is the 7 things rich writers do that poor writers don't. And if you go to, I'm going to put this in the show notes, but if you go to honorecorder.com, and I forgot to mention her last name is Quarter, Honore Quarter, and I will definitely put this in the show notes because it's not an easy one to spell, but honorecorder.com/prosperity for writers, and there's a course you can sign up for. She's got 7 slots left. I'm one of those slots. I took up a slot, so she had 8. And then I took up a slot, and now there are 7 left. Now the course runs $199. There's 4 55-minute group sessions, and she's got 7 slots left, and they're going to fill up fast. So if you have aspirations to be a successful author, you want to make money doing this work, you want to write books, and you want to make money doing it, and you're having issues, you're having barriers, you're running into a wall. This is something you can get into that will allow you to break through that, learn a few tricks, and really get it running. I mean, you've got an opportunity here to not only connect with Honore, but with me and with a whole bunch of other authors who are all of the same mindset. So definitely want to check that out. There are 4 calls, 4 weeks. They are recorded, so if you can't make a week, it's fine. It's done sort of conference call style. So, and there are a lot of great topics. If you look at the site at honorecorder.com, you'll see the sort of details of what each call is going to be about. And this stuff is going to fold into a book that she's producing that was sort of inspired by, she and I both attended the Colony Summit, the Sterling and Stone Colony Summit, which was put on by the guys from Self Publishing Podcast. And we were both inspired by this, and it's changed a lot about the trajectory of my business. As I mentioned, I think last episode, I was being very disrespectful to the fiction, and now I'm not. Now I'm very focused on that. So check that out. Meet her. She's great. I just had an hour-long conversation with her before the show, and I love her. We're gonna get on famously. I can't wait. So check that out. Now, I have another question from a listener. So I got another email. Don't be afraid, by the way. I'm not frustrated or anything, so don't take this the wrong way. But I really wish people would call. The phone number is it's there for you. I think people are shy. Do you think people are shy about having their voice on the air? Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. We want to hear those tones. You can go to wordslingerpodcast.com and you can leave a voicemail straight from the computer if you want. Right from the speak pipe button that's on the right-hand side. There's a little tab that floats with you as you scroll down the page. And that's real easy. You can do that from your phone, too. Or you can just call me, 281-809-WORD, 281-809-9673. will connect you directly to the Word Slinger voicemail box. So, and you can leave a voicemail, ask me a question, ask me anything, say anything. I'd love to hear what you think about the show, actually, and or you can suggest topics, you can suggest guests. I'd love to hear from you. And I get a call every now and then, and it's usually something that, like it'll be like a show suggestion or something, or I want to hear about this, but it's not a question I can play on the air. So I'd love to hear those, but I'm equally thrilled to get these via email. And I got a couple of them, and one of them I'm following up on before I asked the question on air, because I want to make sure I understood what they were asking, because it seemed important. But this one is also important, and it's a frustration I think a lot of authors feel. Whether you're an author who is you're a public speaker, or you're a coach or consultant, or you just want to write fiction, I think that a lot of the advice we get comes down to the same sort of thing. We get overwhelmed. So here's the question, and this comes from Lisa Martinez in California. And she says, there are so many things I'm told an author has to do. Where should I start, and what's the first thing? And, okay, I struggled with that question. I still, in a way, struggle with that question. Because when I talk to other authors who are successful and who are achieving something that I want to achieve, or they're at a level I want to reach, your first impulse is to ask them questions like this, like, what do I start on? What do I do? They'll flood you, man. I mean, I do, and I apologize to those of you. I may have done this too, but once you open the floodgates, it's rock and roll time. So, here's my advice, and I want to do this quick because we're already over an hour, and because the interview was much longer than usual. But here's what I recommend, Lisa. First things first, just write. Don't worry about the marketing yet. Don't worry about setting up sales funnels. Don't worry about networking or any of that. The best advice I can give you is to write a whole lot as quickly as possible. Get it polished and edited afterward, and just produce the books. I mean, if you want to make a career as an author, really, I recommend you have a minimum of 3 books available. A minimum. Because you're going to want to make that first book free. I'm not following my own advice right now. This is advice I'm getting from other people, other authors who are making their living doing this. So I've been working very hard to change up. And if you go, by the way, visit kevintumlinson.com/books. The new book page is up. And it's still sort of a work in progress, but it's looking pretty sharp. And you can see the brand new covers that I just did. I optimized all the covers for my print books, and the novellas are getting the shorts, and the novellas are going to get their own refresh next. They're next up. I've got new pitches, new descriptions for the books. All that stuff's going to go into Amazon, Kobo, Nook, Apple, as soon as I can. So go check that out, kevintumlinson.com/books. But the thing is, you're going to make that first book free. You're going to price the other 2 books, at a reasonable price. But you want to, if you have 3 books, you can have calls to action in each of them, one leading to another. And the free book is to get people on your mailing list. Okay? So all that said, don't worry about that stuff so much. Worry first about writing the first 3 books. Get at least 3 written. And frankly, if you get on a roll, if you use my formula that I've given on past episodes of determining your daily word target, you can knock out a book a month easily. So why not whatever else you're doing to make your living right now, keep doing that while you concentrate on writing a book a month. Don't worry about the editing while you write. Turn off the editor. Just write. Knock out as many books as you can, and maybe in 3 to 6 months, you've got a nice little library. And then take a couple of weeks. Take a vacation. Take a couple of weeks off from your job if you want. Spend the time doing the rest of the funnel building for that. Get them edited. Get the covers made. Get your website set up. Get your opt-in mailing list set up. Get everything going that way. The sort of flood of advice you get from authors, it comes from the fact that we have to do a lot of this stuff in parallel. But if you've got the luxury of time, if you've got the luxury of, this is something you're doing because you love it, that's a huge advantage. Take the time to write the books first. So that's my best advice. And there's probably better advice out there. And there are lots of resources. If you tune into the Self-Publishing Answers podcast that I co-host with Nick Thacker, you can find that at spapodcast.com. You can find back episodes that are on iTunes. We'll be building an official site for that soon. If you go check that out, there's lots of advice there on what to do and how to get started, how to write better, if you feel like you need that. The Self-Publishing podcast with Johnny Truant and Sean Platt and David Wright is another great resource that I am a subscriber to. There are a ton of resources out there for the indie author to grow. I'd say, jump in and start listening to podcasts to get the advice sort of ingrained in your soul. But the real advice is write more books. I mean, there's no better advice than that. So that's it for this week. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you can subscribe to the show. I would love it, absolutely love it, if you would give me some reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. If you go to iTunes, and in fact, there's a video floating around now. If you search for Wordslinger iTunes, I think you can get it on YouTube. And I'm going to put a link. I'll try to put a link in the show notes too. But you can learn the process for actually leaving a review on iTunes. It's not as intuitive as you think. So, but I appreciate them. Every review I get, and I don't have any. I don't have any right now. So every review I get will help the show become more discoverable. But they made it so freaking difficult to actually leave a review. Most people don't even think about it. But stars are great. If you rate the show, that's great. But a written review will help me become more discoverable and help the show spread around. And so if you like what you're getting, spread the love. So thanks for doing that. Wordslingerpodcast.com is where you can do that. You can subscribe to the show there. You can leave me a voicemail straight from your computer. You can call 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673 to leave me a voicemail from your phone. Or you can send me an email right from that site. And please, spread the word. Share the show. I think we're doing something great here. I love it. I love what I'm getting out of it. I hope you enjoyed this interview with David H. Lawrence the 17th. More of that kind of stuff to come, I'm sure. Let me know what you like, what you love, what you hate. And I hope you have a blessed and wonderful day today. And, depending on when you're listening to this, go out and be safe. And one final word, and I saved this to the last because I didn't want to bum everyone out before the interview, but a personal tragedy hit me this week, and in the loss of my cat Mia, which she was with me for 15 years, and it was very difficult for me to watch her go. I was there right at the end. She was looking directly at me when she passed, and it's very difficult for me. So what it's done, though, is open up this idea for me that there are a lot of people out there suffering and feeling grief, feeling alone. And I just want to say, as I close off, you're not alone, okay? And if you ever need to talk, you can feel free to jump on my site, call me, 281-809-WORD, call that number, talk to me. You'll have to leave me a voicemail, but I will get back to you if you ask. And leave me an email at wordslingerpodcast.com, whatever you want. I just want people to know that you're not alone. Your grief is real, no matter what may have caused it. I care about you. Other people in your life care about you. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you, I hope you'll ask. I really do. So God bless all of you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
Wordslinger.